What are we waiting for? Jeez, so embarrassing. I'm sitting there like thinking I'm so close back.
You're all set.
Oh yeah, can we get a motion to start the meeting?
So moved.
Second. Awesome. Oof. All in favor?
Aye.
Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike, for being so patriotic. I appreciate you. It's all loud and proud.
Well, I'm proud.
Okay, so I think obviously we have one thing on the agenda, so without further ado, I'll kick it off to Superintendent and then we'll get with it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So Alyssa Murray and I, we put together a presentation just to walk us through it. So maybe we'll just start with that.
Thank you.
So I'll just walk you through it real quick and then we'll go back and have the conversation just so you can see what we have. So here are the tax levy scenarios at the current suggested budget increase of the 2.15%. So you can see we added some columns here. So you have everything from our current recommended levy of 1.95% and then to 1.75% down to 0.5% with increments of 0.25%. And it shows the amount of appropriated fund balance that would be needed at each of those levels. And the last row at the bottom shows the difference between the 1.95%, how much more at each of those different scenarios would be needed to plug any hole in the budget. And then the next slide, we also put together some areas for potential budget cuts. So if the board wanted to reduce the budget to budget increase, the actual budget itself, we could get it down to 1.89% increase from budget to budget. And we would be eliminating the recommendation of adding a library media specialist. So we would have one in each of our schools. Right now we share at the elementary level between the 3 elementary schools. We have 2 library media specialists. Not filling a senior custodian additional position and reducing the facilities projects by $200,000. So that $365,779, taking that out of the budget would lower the budget to budget increase from 2.15 to 1.89%.
If you want me to wait for the.
Yeah, let's run through all
That's
that.
fine, that's fine.
Then the next slide. So here are the tax levy scenarios at that 1.89% budget to budget increase. So you can see the changes in the fund balance that's needed at each of those levels. And then the next slide here is the tax levy impact at each of the levels. So the tax levy remained the same. We reduced the budget as a potential discussion for the board. But you could see here the annual increase at each of the different tax levy increases, as well as the monthly increase. And then the next slide shows the history of appropriated fund balance. We had this on the last presentation, and that first number there is the proposed at 1.95. So should the board wish to have less than 1.95, that appropriated fund balance goes up. And then the next slide is the tax levy limit formula, which you've seen before. And then we have the tax levy history, which that pink row at the bottom for Tuesday, whatever you decide tonight, we'll update that and it'll be in gold. And then the last slide just shows some comparisons of districts that have similar wealth profiles to us and where we've.
I'm sorry, when you say similar wealth, what do you mean when you say similar wealth?
So there's a certain wealth ratios, like so combined wealth ratio is a ratio that is given to us by New York State for each school district. And all of these school districts within the PNW region all have very similar wealth profiles, meaning they're kind of receiving similar state aid as we are. Their economics are very similar. So in New York State, a 1.00 is the level of like above average. And most of these are a little bit below that, amongst give or take between like 0.9 and 1.1.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. No problem.
All right. So that's the presentation that we have for tonight. So we can go back to that first slide. We can go to any of the slides that you want.
So what's the takeaway here is that Mahopac is, in terms of the yellow, so the tax levy that we're proposing is right in the wheelhouse of all the other districts, right?
And that's just districts with similar wealth profile.
Right,
I mentioned last week when we met that, so all of the districts have not adopted their budgets yet,
Right.
but we do have preliminary information. And when you look at all of the districts in Putnam North Westchester BOCES, as well as the lower Hudson area, we're in the lower quartile for budget to budget increase and tax levy increase.
So the 1.89% instead of the 2.15 or the 1.95.
The 1.89 is
Would be the-
instead of the 2.15.
Right, that's why I was supposed to make sure I had it.
so if you go back to the slide with potential cuts, facilities project, is that just various things that are gonna be done?
What would
Between,
be kind?
Sorry?
What would the 200,000 in cap could become dollars of?
Yeah, it was over 1 million. I think it was like 1.2 million. And
so, yeah,
we would ask Tim to prioritize based on the work that he would want to get done over the summer. Whatever's not done this year, he would probably put it on the docket for next year. The majority of the work's done in the summer, but there are some projects that are done over the different breaks. And if there's any work that could be done during the school year, he'll do that too.
so it's not specific, it's just you're directing Tim in this particular scenario to not spend 200,000.
Correct. We would just reduce his budget.
Reduce his budget by $200,000 and he'll make the decision in terms of prioritizing. Okay, so it's not like,
Correct.
you know, the driveway at
Right.
XYZ school
Right.
or anything like that. Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's go in order, similar to what we've done in past meetings. So, Adam, is there any other questions you have as far as the presentation goes?
The only one is the senior custodian, so that was an additional head, not a promotional.
It was a new position.
It was a totally new, like another
Yeah.
person. So that person was for,
We had a groundskeeper and a senior custodian in the budget for a need. Part of the senior custodian issue is that we have had different custodians out on leave for a variety of reasons, and we're constantly short-staffed. So while the goal is for all of those people to all get healthy and everybody's back working, and there's some positions that are open and we're in the process of hiring for those positions, this would just help facilities get the job done.
right, so what I'm looking at is custodian, it's not a normal salary range, I guess. Is it, would it be somebody that's already a custodian promotional and then backfilling that position, or that's where I'm kind of,
It could be, I mean, I think it just depends on.
or you would post it as a senior custodian, it could be outside or.
Yeah.
This is up to supervisor position.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a supervisory position. It's not a SWAM position.
But it's supervisory, but let's just be very clear, these are working.
No, these are working supervisors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not saying the supervisor, I'm just,
Yeah, I know,
it's
it's,
wondering how it's, is that
Point and shoot.
an opportunity for promotional and you backfill?
yeah.
So, you know, it's,
And it's a shame because I think if we were healthy and we were at full strength, I don't think we'd have an issue. So the issue that I have is that we're gonna add a position, you know, to keep doing this when we really, you know, maybe we should start really looking towards to backfill some of these things, especially on a weekend. If we look at, and I know they're expensive because I have used them at down in New Jersey, but maybe we should look at a service to come in and maybe do a deep clean at, once a month at one of the buildings. I'm just
I
saying,
don't think we can do that. I think it would be taking
Yes.
work away from the unit.
yeah.
Yeah.
you are probably correct.
Adam, is there anything else you have as far as the presentation goes?
I'm just gonna look at the numbers. The only thing I'm trying to.
Ben, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just round out this slide. So the media specialist, we're shooting for one at each elementary school, so this would continue. If we were to adopt this cut, This would just mean that somebody would continue to be doubling up at Austin and
Fulmer.
Okay, all right.
Or in some capacity, we would leave that up to the principals to decide the two library media specialists, where would they be for next year?
And if you go to the next slide. So this next slide, so it's for the 1.89, so you're including the cuts. And I'm looking at, all right, so what we're saying here, so I understand, is at 1.5, we would need $430,000 more than what the level at 1.95, correct?
Correct.
All right, and at this point, we would be taking that from appropriated. Yeah, so yeah, that's right at the top, right? Am I doing the math right? So that's the appropriated fund balance, right?
Yes.
Just increasing by that amount. It's going from 3.18 to 3.424, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and that's 430. 430. Okay.
Any questions, Ben?
Oh,
It's like 3/4.
Well, we'll go ahead and pass over to Lisa. I know Lisa has a question.
I'm just adding up the total. That's all.
all right, go ahead.
750.
So, wait, as town likes to say,
Lisa, yeah.
go ahead.
Well, we'd be losing the one library media specialist, so all three elementary schools wouldn't have one of their own. And then,
Correct. And those are new ads. So last year we added an elementary library media specialist for the first time. For this year, we added a second. So we would maintain status quo from this year.
now, I'm sorry to ask a dumb question. Specifically, the library media specialists, some of their duties, specifically with regard to the content and material that the children in elementary schools are using.
The
and-
books
and given.
themselves?
Yes, not just the books themselves, because I know they come in and they do presentations and they work with them on other things. So having one at each school would mean that it's covered in each school and each would be,
We're still covering it,
okay,
but the library media specialist would then be, if we hired a third, would be full-time in each of the buildings, where right now two of the buildings are sharing. So when the library media specialist isn't there, we still have a library aide that's in the building,
okay.
but the lessons would be different having a library media specialist. It's best practice to have a
Right.
library media specialist.
Right, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
Okay,
And Alyssa, I'm just looking at the slides between the 2.15 and the 1.89. I think that bottom line is not updated, at least,
The bottom line of.
yeah, they look the same.
The bottom line of the additional fund.
Yeah,
Well, it's the same. It's gonna be the same difference between like a 1.5 and 1.95. The difference is it's just taking out of the expenditure side how much appropriate fund balance it is.
right. So that last line is the additional fund balance to be used. So shouldn't that be different whether it's 1.95 or?
No, it's the same, but it's just at a lower level. It's the same difference.
Because the budget decreased.
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you. You're right.
Karen, do you have a question?
So my wonderings have already been answered. I did just have an additional question about another part of the budget we discussed before and safety and security and the ADA signage and how expensive that is. Is that something that we're mandated to do now, or is that something that we just really want to have in terms of safety?
It's the next step in safety as, it's not, I don't believe it's a mandate.
Okay.
But if there was an emergency, we have all of these first responders coming into the buildings, want them to be able to find the classrooms.
Yes.
In the most, in the quickest way.
Thank you.
Chris?
It's not on this slide, but for potential budget cuts, I was just thinking. We were looking at potentially replacing all the middle schoolers' Chromebooks with iPads. It's gonna cost upwards of $500,000. Maybe a potential cut is just to roll that out to one grade at a time. Sixth grade and then maybe seventh grade next year, maybe eighth grade as a cost saving measure.
I I would ask, I think Ben is around.
It is here.
Ben could answer that best, but I know that the amount of aid that we get back would also be dependent on the amount of the expense.
Are they in lieu of Chromebooks too?
Do you want to invite Ben to the table to answer that? Because he could probably do better than I can.
Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
Ben, please have a seat at the table. Immediately.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm just, I know
No, not a problem.
you would have two different,
So-
devices floating around.
Yeah, as I understood it, the statement was perhaps a budget cut we could explore to reduce expenditure
Yeah.
would be to spread out a device replacement over 3 years instead of doing it all in one go.
Yeah.
So stepping back and looking at it from like atmospheric view, when we place a Chromebook in the hands of a middle schooler, the total cost of ownership of the device, due to the need to replace parts of the computer when it gets damaged, or if it's older and needs to be updated, what it comes to is around about $500 for the device. So the iPad that we plan to put into the hands of the middle school students costs considerably less than that. And when they get damaged, the replacement is free. So by switching from a Chromebook-based platform to an iPad-based platform, the district is recovering funds that otherwise would have had to be spent on repairs.
And the repairs aren't aidable.
Correct. So part of the financial thinking in switching the middle school from Chromebooks to iPads is to reduce costs. So by spreading out the replacement over 3 years, we would actually be driving costs up because we'd be maintaining the infrastructure for the Chromebooks and continuing to repair and replace them
Right.
at the same time as rolling out iPads. So at that point, we'd be paying for the increasing complexity of maintaining both platforms, as well as paying for the repairs for any damage that befalls the Chromebooks. Unfortunately, we've seen an increase in breakage rate year over year over the past 3 years. And the strategy in moving to an iPad-based platform is to address the need to continue to put more and more money into Chromebook repairs by removing that from the table entirely.
Is there any cost as far as, because I know obviously Chromebook is Google-based, Apple, has its own iOS. So is there going to be any cost that has to be incurred as far as software licenses or anything else besides hardware?
No, actually, we'll be able to eliminate software licenses as a result. So for example, our elementary schools use a platform called WeVideo to do interactive video editing and creative work. But iPads come preloaded with something called iMovie, which is free. So now instead of needing to roll out interactive video editing at the middle school level, they can use the built-in tool.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Anyway, I can
Follow. What, is it targeted to the middle school because they're the most, my son's a middle schooler, they're the most destructive population?
Well, their arms are getting longer faster than their brain. So
The
basically,
answer, yes, okay.
yeah.
Hey,
So
he's doing his doctorate on this stuff.
No, I bet. Yeah, no, I defer to his
I can
expertise.
vouch for
This
this.
is real. This is real.
yeah, at the middle school level, the cost of maintaining a Chromebook is higher than at the elementary or the high school level. So we get the best bang for our buck by focusing on middle school.
All right, fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
And they can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Have them drop
You
30.
can include this video in the dissertation.
Yes.
Put them in the right case.
Mike, you have questions on the presentation?
I appreciate the opportunity to take a look at a few of the cuts. I think from my standpoint, I wasn't really, I was looking at staff. I mean, we can always look at staff, we always look at admin, we always look at, the teachers. Do we need do we need all the new teachers? I know our population, I really haven't seen a lot of numbers about that, but I don't think it's for me. I don't think it's the budget so much. It's the way we fund the budget. I think I've been pretty steady with fact that we have additional monies that we've had procured from the community over the last several years for a big tax, what we were preparing for a big tax settlement with the city that never came to fruition. Now we also have the sale of the school property for $1.2 million, property that we received for $1 or if it was given to us. So I think, just again, I think the message has been consistent. I think that we should be utilizing the stuff, those funds, and then even take some additional funding and put it into next year's tax reserve to give everybody in our community a break. So I am the big goose egg.
Okay.
I just shared a document that I put together. Just because I know that you mentioned a couple times about the administration and the number of positions we have. So one side shows the trend data from 21-22, and how many administrators there were. And there was 26 in 21-22. And then when I came on in 22-23, we went down an assistant superintendent for PPS. And we still had a shared elementary assistant principal, which was discussed before I came on. And then in 23-24, we went up to 27, which in essence was the additional elementary assistant principal. And then the reverse side, I put this together, I think it's a good history, and it just shows straight across who was in each position. And I think it's good for the district to just have this. So I just wanted to point out that there's been one increase in administration.
Thank you. Tanner, do you have any questions regarding the presentation?
Nope, no questions over here.
Okay.
And Tanner, I'll share that document that I just passed out with you. You got it via email.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I'm not sure if we can make it public. I know this is something that I've heard a lot as well, as far as the size of the administration. So I think this is always again in the essence of transparency, good to just have again, it's actually a conversation I was having as far as being involved and having an idea of who's who and where the our money goes. So so I think this is very helpful.
There's a bigger conversation about it too. Like the whys behind why we need more assistant principals and stuff like that. From 10 years ago or 15 years ago, challenges that we face now. So it's actually it's a good piece to start with, but it's a pretty big conversation. I think we could do a lot. We could probably explain it a lot better in the future, because there's definitely, I question it myself at times, but then you look at the challenges that kids face, the challenges that administrators and staff. So it's actually just a good starting point, but we can probably ramp it up to explain it, to give more of the why.
Yeah, totally. All right, so then I think the next step now is probably just to see where everybody is as far as the number, and then go from there. Unless is there anything else anybody wants to discuss before we go there? So then we'll go in reverse. So Tanner, we'll start with you. As far as we have the screen up right now, as far as the increased scenarios. So we'll let you kick. Go ahead.
You go to the slide with the annual and the monthly, that one. Thank you.
All right, Tanner, we'll let you go ahead and kick it off.
Sounds good. Either slide, I'm in the same spot. I like 0.5%. I stated my reasons last time at the last meeting. I think that we can make proper investments. I trust the talent in our district to find the right cuts that won't hurt our district. But again, it's something that we hear every single year, and it's about time we do something about it. Taxpayers are struggling, and the well-being of a family's personal finances is just as important as the finances of the school district. We have to find a balance where we have the resources for their kids when they come to the schools, but they also need to live comfortably at home with a family that is looking to live here long term. For after they're done having a family here, raising a family, seniors being able to afford to stay here. Mahopac has its roots as a vacation town. Folks from the city coming up here and eventually planning their roots because they realize that they could live in a forever vacation. This is people's forever. And we have to be conscious of that as school board members. We have to take all members of the community into consideration. So I'm at 0.5%.
Thank you, Tanner.
You said 0.5?
0.5, yep. Mike?
For the, I'm gonna just stay with my, it's not up there, but I know I can get to it, but I'm gonna stay with the 0. I know we have the money. I know we can fund it. I know that we have the sale of the property, which was nice. We also, in preparation for this big settlement that we were thinking, it never came to fruition, thank God. But I think that being said, we had taken money, we took extra money from the taxpayers in order to develop that account. And I'd like to see it go back to our community.
Thank you, Mike.
That's 0 as well.
Okay. Thank you. Jen? I'll go last.
You don't have any questions about the debt?
I'll go last.
Okay.
Okay, Jen.
So I understand the needs of the seniors, and it's difficult. Every time I go to the grocery store, everything is costing me more as well. Everything that we have to pay for in the district is going up. I have talked to my own personal accountant. I've talked to other people in the community, and I just don't feel it's fiscally responsible to go below 1.5.
Please, let's hold comments till the end. Thank you. Thank you. Lisa?
I've been speaking to other people in the community as well. People that own multiple properties and things, and their children are in school. And they said to me at 1.95, I don't know, see how that's going to work with certain things of inflation going on. And after doing my homework and more homework and researching other districts and everything, I'm afraid to go too low. And right now, I would like to see 1.5. Would I like to get to 1? Was there? Yes. But right now, I'm going to stay with the 1.5, just after speaking with other people and learning more.
Thank you, Lisa. Go
All
ahead.
right, so I'll start with the punchline. I am fine with 1.5. That's where I started last time. I think we have multiple considerations here. We have fiscal responsible. I think going to 0 is fiscally irresponsible. Other districts that have done that in the past, surrounding districts have fallen on very difficult times. Okay, we also, the reserves that would be tapped for this impact the credit rating that the district have. We are constantly borrowing money, whether it's on an interim basis or not on an interim basis. So is a Moody's the rating? So the Moody's rating is affected by the fund balance and also just the fiscal soundness of the district. The fiscal soundness of the district, if you take a 0%, it does not look good to any official looking at budgets. There's also uncertainty. I've talked about this before. There's federal uncertainty that the Department of Education is being dismantled, will likely be dismantled. There's 2 huge pieces of aid that we get from the federal government that funnels through New York State. That is title grants and the IDA grants. The IDA grants is, I believe, going through Medicaid, and that's for special ed. Now, what we've heard through, chatter or whatever, is that those 2 pieces will never be touched. So there's changes that are happening literally every day, even 2 times a day. So that uncertainty bothers me a great deal. The other uncertainty is New York State. Okay, we don't have a budget. Today's the 17th of April. Tanner, is up there working his best to try to crack some heads and try to get them to get their, get things done. But New York State is not a stable situation, especially with the unfunded mandates. The biggest one we have is electric buses that are still on the books, and we're supposed to be buying them by 2027, and they're supposed to full fleet by the 2035. That's unfunded, right? No one wants to pay taxes. Nobody. The US government was based on tax revolution, right? You had the Boston Tea Party. Frankly, it was taxation without representation, but we threw tea into the Boston Harbor. So nobody wants to pay extra taxes.
The way I look like at this is it's an investment in our children. Okay? It's an investment in our children. And it may not say, we'll take a lower hit now. But what about my son's, at the high school, and likely some of the changes we make here will not affect him because programs are already in place. But it takes 5 to 10 years to affect any change. So if you've got a kid in kindergarten and they're thinking about potentially going to be in a pathway that's for a nurse or a business person, or we have the engineering one, and those aren't built up by the time they get to high school, this is where the money's going to come from, is these reserves that are being depleted. So although it is a nice fix to be able to do that, and again, nobody wants to pay extra taxes. Nobody. It's just the American way. We don't want to pay taxes, but it is an investment in children, and that's what we hear on the board. And I think if you look, talked about these numbers here. The 1.5, if you could just, I got it here. Don't worry about it. It's 142. I'm rounding up. $142 per year. $11.82 per month. Okay, is that investment worth? Is our kids worth that investment? I say yes. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to, the investment was that. So for that, I'm going to stay with the 1.5.
Thank you. Adam?
I won't rehash after everything everybody's already said. First thing I will say is there is not one financial advisor or anywhere that will say plugging your budget with a one-time shot of revenue is a good idea. So we have the money. We're gonna put it where it needs to be. So 0% for me is not realistic. Contrary to what I've been accused of, does not benefit my family in any way, because I live here too and I pay taxes as well. Okay, so my kids will be out of school by the time these ripple effects come into play. Okay, so it's not about my family, it's about the future of the district, which affects our property values and everything else. So 0% is not on my radar. I would go with 1.5 with the cuts with the anticipated cuts. If there's something we can discuss to get it down a little bit, as Trustee Carway said, I'd be willing to discuss that. And like Trustee DeLulla said, nobody wants to pay taxes, but it's part of the deal. School district is the biggest tax bill we pay. It is everywhere you go. But it is an investment in our children, our future, and our own properties. So for the conversation point, I'll stay with the 1.5. But if we want to negotiate, we can get down lower too. If it would make everybody feel better and agree, I'm willing to negotiate a little bit, but not below 1%.
Okay, thank you. All right, so obviously I agree. Nobody wants to pay taxes, right? So I'll say I'm not at 1.5. I'm not at 0 either. And I think for me, I think the most important part is the number is a number, right? But I think what we need to, discuss is not necessarily if we're going to use the reserve funds, but where can we either spend more efficiently or save or do some delays on what we're going to spend, right? So I think I agree with Trustee Travis on if it's not something that is critical or mandated or urgent at the time, can we delay it? Can we push it to either at the middle of the year, for next year? Because it's hard, right? When you go on vacation, when you go somewhere, it's hard to say no to your kids. I think that's the most difficult thing that we all look at. So for investing into our school district, we want to give them everything. We want to give them the best. But right now we just cannot. So we have to make some very difficult decisions. Safety is number one, right? That's on our strategy. So I think it's very difficult to say no to safety. But some of the other things, what is it that we could go back and look at to say, something that we can cut back on? We can push off? Can we change a little bit? I'm a big proponent of the iPads. I think I've seen other districts do that. So I think that's a very smart thing to do. So maybe looking at smarter, more efficient, more effective ways, use a little bit of the sell of the building, right? So I think if we could find creative ways, and if we could get to 1%, 0.5%, get somewhere where it does give relief to our taxpayers and still give a very district that the parents, the students, the faculty can be proud of. I think that's where I'm at. So I don't have an actual number in my head. I'm not at 1.5. I think that's not where I'm at right now, but I'm also not at 0. So I think we do need to get to the point where we can look at maybe some more possible creative ways where we could save a little bit more or cut a little bit more and to look at the reserves. So that's where I'm at. And I think what Trustee McCracken said is a good statement where if we go at 0, then it doesn't give the voters the right to make a decision, right? We're making a decision for them. So I don't think that's fair either, right? So I think we're in a position where we have to give them an option. And if the voters come back and vote it down, then, that's where the decision is made. But if we go and we make the decision for them, but we go at 0 automatically, then what decision is there to be made, right? There is no decision to be made. So I think we need to do our due diligence, make as many options available, and then leave it up to the voters. So that's where I'm at.
So to summarize what I've heard, I just want to point out that with the reductions that Alyssa and I looked at, that brings the budget to budget increase at 1.86%. Right, 1.86? 1.89%. That's less than 2% increase. What was it, 83% of the budget was obligatory, non-discretional, it was contractual based, utilities increases. The fact that we're at 1.89% budget to budget increase is tremendous. We're doing an awful lot, all good things for students at a very small budget to budget increase. Listening to each of you, to weigh in on where you think the tax levy increases, the happy medium between a couple of zeros, a 0.5, a 1 or a 0.5, and some 1.5s. In my opinion, you're just about at a 1%. A 1%.
1.15.
Thank you.
That's
I
what-
didn't.
that's what I was looking, I'm like-
1.15 is the average.
There. Well, no, I was looking, I'm like, it could be right there. Could we have that?
So
1%?
could you put the slide back up with the,
That's low.
where 1%?
Could I just make a
Could-
quick? while
Can
you're
I,
going-
can I jump in really quick and just say, if you're doing the absolute lowest we would go, if you want to do the you could put me in as a 0 for the calculation. I was saying 0.5% to try to get to a consensus here. Like I said last meeting, I go as high as 1, as low as 0. I said 0.5 to see if we could get 5 on that. So I don't think I'm like you can use 0.5 in a math equation for me. I would vote for 0.5%, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where I would go. Or that's my absolute lowest.
Go ahead.
So Ben, when you say 0 is irresponsible, we talk about other towns, okay? I was on this board along with Lucy, in the mid, 2000s there, 2016, 17, 18. We had a very, very nice run of 0, one year we were actually below. We were usually up in that, pretty fiscally responsible in that, 0, 0.17, 0.85. Okay. The only time that we started to go up, okay, was when we were warned about the tax cert and impending settlement with the state. You made reference to a 0 being irresponsible, okay, and talked about other towns and how, right? But in these other towns, please share with me what other town was preparing for a potential $30 million settlement with the city and who sold their district office building for $1.2 million. I don't think you're going to be able to find somebody in that breadth. I understand what you're saying. Okay. It's not about, I don't think it's about the budget. I don't think it's about the wants. It's about giving something back that we took that we were preparing for something that never came to fruition.
Right.
That's it. It's not, you don't you can't compare what we're trying to do here, okay? You can't compare us to, in this budget this year, you can't compare what we're trying to do because we had very good luck. We didn't have to go back and we sold property. And I just think especially if you looked at your 401k this morning, okay? I think there's a lot of uncertainty and I think this is a golden opportunity,
Right.
okay? Because we did enjoy zeros and 1.7s and 0.85 and -1. I think it was -1.2, -1.2. I think we're really responsible there. And you know what? It all worked. It all worked. And then we went to the community for a $54 million bond and it passed 2-1. So I don't know what, but when you start looking at the last, at the last, 3 or 4 budgets, it's not out there. I mean, we were used to winning budgets 2-1. It was like nothing. Okay. But now it's, but now it's,
Different question.
but I'm just saying, but now 150, win by 150, win by that. I think it's a nice opportunity. I think it's a nice opportunity. We have the money. We can fund it.
Let me just ask one question. I wasn't here on the other night and I apologize for not making the other meeting. But so I hear you, but and I'm not arguing any of those points, but so we had to go for the bond and we had to borrow that money, right? And so for that bond, we had to pay, back. So I think I need a little more clarification on the for when we are going to try to ask for this $10 million capital reserve. And I know we have a lot of projects that we're talking about that the buildings need. And so instead of asking for the community to give us another bond or to approve another bond, is if we deplete some of the reserves that we have in order to give back this community the money that we asked them for, then we're not going to have those reserves in order to do some of these projects, right? So I think it would make, it's like we have, this money in our savings account, we'll give it back to them so we don't have to pay it. But now we're gonna have to ask for another bond again. So we're gonna have to borrow money, pay interest on that money instead of having the money at hand and pay for some of this, right? So we have to figure out a very intelligent way to say, okay, can we use some of it right now to definitely offset some tax? I think it's very smart, prudent, and respectful way to handle some of that. But at the same token, are we going to use it all? And then now we have nothing. So then if we do need something happens to one of the buildings, the roof, the bathrooms, everything that has to get done, and now we don't have anymore. Now we're going to go borrow again. It's going to cost us more when we have it, on hand.
But we have nearly almost $30 million in reserves.
27.
27.
Most of it is accounted for.
All I'm saying is, listen, we'll split hairs over here. This community, anytime that we've asked this community for a bond for our schools, for our children, the community has responded. I don't think we were preparing ourselves for something that didn't come to fruition. I agree. I agree. We should have we already increased it last year. We did 5 million. We went from 2.5 to 5 million on one of the accounts. We want to expand that to 10 so we can put some more money over there. I'm all down with that. I'm good with it. But to sit there and I have a lot of faith in this community, and I'm going to tell you, in 3 years, if we went to this community and said, we're gonna do bathrooms over here, here's the architectural drawings, this is what we want to do, this is what it's good for the kids, this is what we'd like to do. I'm telling you, this community is going to respond to that. So and they always have. So I don't know why we're splitting hairs on this thing. We know we can fund it. We know I'd love to take some and put 2 million into the tax for next year, the reserve. Okay, so then take the rest of it and put it into the $10 million cap. So we're going to leave 2 million. We'll use 2. We'll use another 2. So we'll put $5 million into the capital. Then because we already have 5. So then we'll have $10 million in capital reserves. I mean, and if we need more, well, all we got to do is go to the well. They've always been good to us.
So why do you need to go to the well? That's what Fernando's saying. You don't have to go to the well. You already have it. And the other thing is this is a really bad year. This is a really bad year. This is a really bad year. Every year is a bad year for somebody.
Mhm.
Every year is bad, Mike. Every year is bad, right?
Sure.
So you do this now, next year, you're gonna want to do it again and again and again. You can't do that.
Well, you can't, but you
You can't do that, Mike. And then to ask to have this money in hand, all right? And use it for this and not save some in a reserve that is basically to do work that we need to, it's not work that, hey, you really, we'd like to have a helicopter pad. No, we want to fix the bathrooms. So that's, what is it, $7.8 million, $7.8 million. All right, it's there. So we put the project together and we fund it. It's funded. No bond, no discussion. It's done. Right?
Hold on a second, 1 second, but please. We told this community that we needed to put money away
I understand.
for this. That's what we told them.
Okay.
Okay. And that's fine. So now we have to tell them that we're going to do something different. Okay. And all I'm saying is that would they have voted, listen. That was for something totally different. And now we want to take that money and we want to move it into something for I get that. And we're going to do that. But all I'm saying is that because we had increased and put money away to prepare for this, I just think I think it's a prudent thing to do. I don't think it's irresponsible.
Okay.
And I think, that's just my opinion.
All right,
Okay.
that's good.
Well, that's what we told them we were doing with the money. Now we're saying we want to do something different with it.
You
So
promised
Let's give some of the other, because some other trustees have some to comment, so.
Would it be appropriate if I talked about the BCS? Not number wise.
That's on the debt, son. I think that's
I
on the
don't
debt.
think that's on the.
Okay.
Oh, son.
So this is to put it in perspective. $57 million in repairs within the next 10 years. That's right now. And that number could go up because things deteriorate. 0 to 3 is 18 million, 4 to 5, 24 million, and 6 to 10, 15 million. So if it's going back for not very long, right? So we get interest on savings, our savings, right? So that's kind of the balancing act. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand why the money was taken, and I understand it's got to go back, but it's the give and take is not really something, it's not really a game that we want to get into, right? So going back to what Fernando said, it's the right thing to do is take part of it and invest it, but not all of it, because we're going to wind up, it's going to be a vicious circle. And we don't want to keep going back and asking, right? So if we go about it the right way, which is our fiscal advisors are doing, what our assistant superintendent for facilities and finance is doing, and our superintendent trying to make the best out of this situation, that's a big number. It scares the heck out of me. It does. But there really aren't many alternatives. So that's kind of where I'm at. If we want to have the discussion on, if we want to trim something here or there, okay. But 0%, it's not, I don't think that's, it's not that it's not a smart decision. It's nothing more than, I don't think it's the right decision.
Trustee Corwin.
Yeah. Same thing. We can trim, we can get down. But from what I've learned and talking with financial advisors and other school districts, doing 0% is not fiscally responsible. And districts that have had to do that have then had to raise their tax levy more than they're comfortable with in years after. So while it's a nice one-shot deal and it's really great for the community that way, we want to be able to say, here on out, we want to be fiscally responsible. We also want to be able to receive funding when we need it from other, whether it's I don't know, grant or something else. We really, 0 is hard, and I've done some research on different districts and what it's done to them going forward. we don't have to go to the extreme. We really should look for some areas where we can. I mean, we have a list of them so far. But yeah, 0 makes me nervous.
So I think also to take into consideration, there's knowns, unknowns, and unknowns, right? And so I think right now we're dealing with a couple of knowns, right? Knowns what we have in the reserves, knowns what we have in contracts, right? So we have certain knowns, but then kind of what we're talking about, the unknowns, right? Is what the state aid final number is going to be, a couple of unknowns, right? Certain costs that are going to be coming up. So that's a part for me that is a little, that's circulating in my head is, what are those unknowns and then those unknowns. So that's why for me, it's hard to go with that 0 is those unknowns. And for the knowns, I can get away from the 1.5. I could come down and say, yes, this is money that we were saving for something else so that we can, provide some tax relief. Absolutely. Let's do that. But do we want to spend everything and then be left, depleted or at somewhere where we're uncomfortable? I think we have to be very smart about that. So I think we just have to get together. What can we agree on? Where can we find common ground? And then, do what's right and what's prudent for the community and let them have a voice. Yeah. So I think I agree again that, at some point, if the community says no, and they vote it down, and then they vote it down again, then that's have their voice and then they'll get to 0. So they do have the opportunity to get to 0. They can be heard. And so there is that opportunity. There is that option. So we have to be able to do what's right and do what's right for everyone. So I think if we could find together, where we feel is the right number to leave in the reserves, to spend what we feel we're all comfortable spending to provide tax relief, and then what we can feel comfortable on what we can cut. I think that's what we need to probably focus on right now.
So can I throw in a number then? If it's 1.25, we'll go 1.25. Okay, that means we'll be putting into the appropriated fund balance would be 3.66. So we will be taking out of reserves $3.664 million into the reserves. Okay, out of the reserves and plugging that into to get to the 1.25. Is that correct, Alyssa?
It comes out of appropriated fund balance.
Appropriated fund balance. Okay, that 1.25 is $9.83 a month. All right, it's $118, $118 per year. Okay, I'll repeat what I said. Is that a worthwhile investment in our children and in our future? Yes. Okay, so I'm throwing out 1.25.
And if the state aid comes in higher.
Yeah.
Then that number's.
Well, we're stuck with it because it's likely not gonna
Yeah,
happen by.
Yeah, but. it's
So,
more money
and
to put.
Alyssa, correct me if I say anything that's not right. So right now, the board's deciding on a tax levy increase to put on the ballot. As President Martinez said, that's when the community gets the voice. They either vote yes, they vote no. If it's no, the board then gets another attempt to decide if they want to change it. Or ultimately it gets passed or it goes into contingency. We don't know what our final state aid is going to be. What the board did in September of 2024 was made the decision to appropriate additional fund balance at that time and lowered the tax burden on the community in September. You can't increase the tax levy, but you do have the option come August, September. If we're in a very comfortable financial position, the board could vote again, just as the board voted last September to appropriate 1.67 million towards the tax levy that was approved by the voters, and everyone paid less in their tax bill because they were going to absorb the city. So there's no additional city at this time for this year. However, the piece that you have to remember is that next year when we sit to set the tax levy, that formula that Alyssa starts talking about in February, that top number is going to be lower. And it can never get higher. And so this year, that top number went down 1.67 million. But there are options. Just anything you want to add?
Everything's good.
Okay.
That's the fear.
So that 1.6, just that 1.6 is essentially the same number we plugged in at the end last August.
Yes,
And what you're suggesting is if we get a bit of a windfall from the state or whatever it works out to be, we can use that again,
correct,
and that will lower the
It's
effect.
kinda-
correct.
That will lower the effect as of September.
Yes, it'll affect the tax burden on the community for 25-26
But
school
next
year.
year, it
We're
affects.
starting at, we're
But
starting.
then we're starting at a lower number and
Number which affects every, all the
And
calculations.
that's why the 0% doesn't help.
Yes, that doesn't help.
0% doesn't help
Doesn't
in the
help us in
future.
long term.
Like when we talk about future, you know, we had a fiscal advisor come in and gave us a long-term plan,
Yeah.
and that was shared with the board.
Yes.
But any fiscal advisor is going to tell a Board of Education to go at your tax levy limit, which we're already well below the tax levy limit that's allowable. I completely understand what everyone's saying, and I understand the additional monies that are available. But as superintendent, I am just afraid of what nobody knows. The unknowns are just unknowns. We don't know what things are gonna look like 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and I do not want to see this community be in a position where we have to cut things, we have to try to do a supermajority on a budget vote. I understand what everyone's saying, and I'm supposed to say go to the tax levy limit because that's what we're trained to do. Alyssa's trained to do that. That's the fiscally responsible path to take. But I also understand the situation like Mike described. It's a unique situation. I do feel that less than the 1.95% is probably the way to go, but I'm breaking superintendent code by saying that.
Tanner, do you want to give us your number? We'll go at it one more time.
Well, I remember last time we went around and everyone did their highest they would go and their lowest they would go. So I think that's a better way of doing it. Like I said, I'm not going any higher than 1, and I would support if we had 5 votes for 0. But if we found, so my in between on that is 0.5. I saw the numbers on that. I was comfortable with it, but I think we should go around and see where the board's highest and lowest are.
Okay, thank you, Tanner. Mike,
I'm gonna stick with the 0 because I think if Tanner and Chris, I think we have 3 that are at 0 right now. So we're getting close. Getting close.
But you have to put a ceiling.
we gotta put a higher.
Oh, my ceiling's 0.5.
We're not closer. We're not any closer than we were a week ago, though.
But we're consistent.
Chris,
I'll say 0 to 0 point.
0 to 0.5.
0.5.
0.5.
Point.
Okay. Jen,
My absolute bottom would be 1.25.
and 1.5. Got it. Lisa,
My bottom would be 1.
and 1.5.
my top.
All right, Ben,
1.5 top, 1.25 bottom.
Strange number.
Adam,
I would like to find a happy medium. 1.25, 1 to 1.25.
okay.
We can create on something like that.
And just for transparency, 1 was my highest and 0.5 probably for me. I definitely don't want to go to 0, but I could get down to 0.5, so. Think, yeah, we're.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're somewhere between 1 and 0.75.
We're given, not everybody is.
But
That's what's changing.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's a point where we're not gonna go.
if you think about where the recommendation came in, where the tax levy limit was, it's a big change. And it will benefit the community. We're still keeping the budget at where we're pretty much everything that was requested is in the budget, which is good for students.
And I'm worried just borrowing from Peter to pay Paul if we're going to spend our savings and then not have the money we need to do our projects like the bathrooms, to continue to maintain our programs, to, you know, be able to have the pathways that we want as part of our strategic plan. And if we spend our reserves, you know, you can't do that every year. You could do it just this year, but then next year, if unexpected things pop up, I'm not comfortable with that. I would never spend my own savings and make it zero. I wouldn't want to do that to the district as well.
And you will hear me next year, remind, depending on where we're at, you know, I've said it, you know, we're not coming in at the levy limit. We're not coming in at the 1.95, which we originally recommended. So a year from now, I will be reminding everyone of the decisions that were made this year, because it can't be done year after year. The money's coming from, to plug the hole in the budget, the appropriated fund balance, which is technically what's left over at the end of this year. And we know that we have a lot more money that will be available to us at the end of this year because of the sale of the property. And then we definitely have to move the tax tertiary money. We can only leave about 1.2, 1.3 million in there. So there's like 8.8 million that needs to be moved. But those are restricted reserves. So we're not looking right now to take from the restricted reserves. So I want everyone to understand that after the budget is settled and we close the books on June 30th, you're going to see at least the same amount of money in reserves with, at least the same amount of money in reserves. The difference is it's not going to be in tax tertiary anymore. It's going to be in a different reserve. Alyssa, would you agree with all that?
Yeah.
Well, what's our option right now if we don't find, if we can't get to a 5? What,
Can I quote one of your sayings from your?
go for it.
So we're at a tough point here where we're doing the best we can to come with a summarize and agree on something. Obviously, we're not going to get there. We're 8 people, right? We have a community of 10,000. Okay, the people here are voicing their opinions for what they feel, right? We have people that are talking to us that have a different opinion. So to quote what Trustee Martinez says is we're at a place where we got to pick a number. That's fair. And I think we've come in and been reasonable about discussing it. We got to come up with a number and leave it to the majority, the public, to decide, right? Because that's your voice. That if we go down to nothing, then your voice away. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to be your voice to do what we can for the future of the district and our students. But ultimately, you have to say, and we have a lot of people in this town that should be able to at least afford the opportunity to voice their opinion. So we gotta come up with a number. So it's.
Can I throw something out there? I thought you were done. I'll wait. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, you're good.
No, trust me, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were done.
Go ahead, Tanner.
Okay. The lowest levy number by someone who wanted 1.5 was 1.25, and the highest number of someone who wanted 0 was 0.5. The number in between those two numbers is 0.88%. That's it. That's in the middle of 1.25 and the middle of 0.5.
You said one, like the average.
Well,
Yeah.
No, so I instead of doing an average of all the numbers, I took the highest a trustee who wanted 0 wanted to go was 0.5. The lowest that someone who wanted 1.5 wanted was 1.25. So
No,
in between that number is 0.88.
1.0.
Huh?
1.0.
No, there were a couple of trustees that won't.
I said
Right, there were two.
1.0 as well.
Yeah, there were 2 trustees that wanted 1.25 as their lowest.
And there was 2 that was 1.0.
Hmm.
I'm just not trying to argue.
I'm just throwing a number out there. 0.88.
so then just by show of hands, who would be okay with 0.88? Anybody? Yes, no?
I mean, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like 1% is fair. Then we're compromising, and if other people are willing to compromise, and then we can let the public.
So
make
you're
the
good with
decision.
1?
Yes.
So Jen's with 1, you go with 1. Ben, you've been, no, Adam, you go with one? Tanner, you go with one?
I'm good with not one. I'd like to go around the room on 0.88 first. Well, I want to see if there's 5 for 0.88.
Okay, let's go with, all right, so Tanner, you 0.88, we'll go, okay. Mike, 0.88.
I'll go to 0.88, but I'll tell you what. That's all we're
Chris,
headed.
0.88.
That's it.
0.88.
Yeah, just
Why don't you do a weighted average?
one is, what would one give us? We're not getting anywhere. One, I'll put me down for one.
All right, I will do 0.8. Then
I already said,
you said one,
I said
right?
one.
Okay, at least one. Ben,
1.125.
no, one or 0.88? We're saying gonna do one or 0.88?
Obviously, I'd be good for point.
That's a
All right,
change.
Adam,
Chris, where are you?
one,
What are you doing?
I'd be good for point, I want 0, but I'd be good for
I
point
do
8.
too. I want 0, but we'll stay here all night.
so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do we have 5 for
4 for
0.88?
one,
Do we have 5 for 0.88?
1,
No.
2, got 3 for 0.88.
And Tanner, you got Tanner?
Tanner, right? Tanner,
myself,
Mike,
Chris.
myself, and Chris, right, for 0.88. So it's 4.
Trustees, Carway, Travis, DeLulo, Savino, any of you would be willing to support a 0.88?
Why don't you move your number up, Tanner?
That's the
Why don't
average.
you move your number down, Ben?
Oh, I mean, I'm just.
We did.
Why don't you?
What kind of?
Be bullied anymore.
I mean that with all due. I mean that with all due respect. I could ask you the same
About
question.
0.94, that's in between 1.0 and
Just do
0.88.
one. Just do one.
Just do 0.88.
You're not
No.
Do one.
5 people. It's not gonna happen. So the only
Just do
way,
one. Then I counter propose a one.
Right, so then that's
I think we've already counted the ones, which is you, one.
No, he wasn't one before.
He was-
I wasn't
Each
one
one,
before.
okay, so then one is
if you were.
Lisa, Adam, Jim.
And then Chris.
I'll go to that's 5.
Okay,
So that's 5 for 1.
All right, it's 1.
All right.
And the public will tell us.
1%. Is that it? Anything else we gotta? Okay,
So what is one, just to make sure everybody, one is 7
Alyssa,
point,
can we put it up on the screen with the one?
Yeah,
sentence
please.
Just so we can see it.
so just want to make sure the public realizes this. Okay, if you're paying attention at home, 1% represents $95. This is an average for about $500,000 house. So if your house of the value of a house is more, it's going to be more. If it's less, it's going to be less. 1% represents from this estimate an increase of $95.05 per year. That's $7.92 per month.
thank you, trustee DeLillo. Okay, with that, can we get,
Do we have?
oh, all right, so do we have anybody signed up for public comments?
Hold, just real quick, can we please slide number 4 again, just to look at that, the scenario, so we see the appropriate fund balance and,
Yes, please. Thank you.
yeah. So that's that, the property tax levy, 95.
3.894.
So what we have done is, okay, I'm gonna make a point here. Okay, what we have done here to reduce this tax levy is we're gonna put an additional appropriate in the additional appropriate fund balance. We're gonna add $900,000. Is that correct?
Correct. From
So
what
that-
we originally.
Right, so that $900,000, then, no, all right, I'm coming.
It's very.
I'm not talking, I'm just talking. The $900,000 represents in 5 years, will likely, if you just assume a 5% return, will probably be in the neighborhood of $3 million. Okay?
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
All right, so we have, anybody signed up for public comments?
No.
Okay,
Question.
yes,
I was here last time and thank you for everybody listening to me. I have a question.
please, I say, your name.
Oh, sorry, my name is Sonia Rivera, who live,
Thank you.
in Carmel. Actually in Mayfair. I read that, I don't know what school district you have, researched, but I did read that just last year,
the Rockland County School District had a $30 million reserve. And they had to give 2% reduction to the community, they had to give the money back. I don't know where you stand with that. I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know how you're plugging in the numbers. I don't have a $500,000 house. I wish I did. I'm not listening to you. It doesn't matter to me. I can pay the money. It's not about me. It's about the community and the kids. What I do want to say is that you are splitting hairs. I mean, you're at one point, come on, make a decision at this point, and the community will speak. But I did read that Mr. DiCarlo, as a matter of fact, was a superintendent who went there, and he had to give, the state came in and made them give a 2% reduction. Does everybody know that?
Yeah.
So they had to give back the money. I don't know where you have the money plugged in. But wherever you have that money plugged in with a $30 million reserve, they had to give back the money. I don't have kids in the school district anymore. It doesn't matter to me. I want what's best for the kids. But I also think that you guys got to think about the fact that you have our money from years ago that wasn't used. It just doesn't make sense to me. And Mr. DeLulo, please, you're the only person that helped me when I came to you years ago. I know you don't remember me, but I remember.
And I really,
You know,
hey, we talk after, nobody ever says nice things to me.
Never forget you, because you were so good to me, and I appreciate that. You guys will remember, maybe some of you won't. Did everybody ever watch the movie Mr. Mom?
Yes.
Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton?
Yep.
You know, when the wife got the job and the husband was home because he couldn't get a job? And the reason why she made a phenomenal success was because she got up and she said, the times are hard right now. We're gonna give you a discount on Schooner Tuna for now, and then we're gonna go back to the regular price. So that's kind of what the community is asking. They're asking for you to say Schooner Tuna, the tuna with a heart. So if you can get down to that, I don't know the numbers. I really don't know the numbers, and I don't know what's going on here because I haven't been involved, and shame on me. And I apologize to all of the parents because I didn't participate, but I'm here today, and I'm here just to say is, you know what? I get what you're saying. If we go, it's like we did it in the police department when I work. If we go down to zero, we're not gonna get any money next year. But you guys have our money from years ago. You have our COVID money. I taught my kids during COVID, and so did you, Mr. D. You did too. You taught your kids too because your kids were home. All of, you know, you had to teach your kids. That money's in reserve. If this one year you can turn around and tell the community, listen, Mahopac, the school district with a heart, we're gonna give you a 0.5 or whatever number it is that you guys ever come down to. Give them a break. And guess what? He's right. There's no way on God's green earth that anybody's gonna come to me and say, our school district is suffering, we need your money, and I'm gonna say no. I don't have a $500,000 house. It's much more than that, but we're gonna come swinging for our kids. It doesn't matter if we have them in school or not. We will come in and give you money. I get what you're saying. If we go down below, we're not gonna have the money. We're worried about DEI. Trump's not gonna give us the money. Forget about that. Think about today. You got $30 million in that account. That's not your money. It's our money. And we gave it to you willingly in the past. Do you really want to risk the opportunity that people are gonna go out? Because these people got attitude here, right? But they go out and they knock door by door. Like I said last week, I'm menopausal. I'll just go out and tell everybody to vote no. Do you really want to take the risk of people saying, we're voting you down just because you were unreasonable? If you tell someone in the community that you have $30 million in reserves, and by the way, we want 10 more, what do you think they're gonna say?
We don't.
They're gonna say no.
No, we're not.
So try to come to a reasonable number. And it seems like the community's not at one, you know, and just say, we're doing it this one time because we can. We do have problems in the future. We're gonna need electric buses that we're not gonna be able to power because we don't have the capability of powering them, but whatever. In 2027, just do your best now and stop worrying about what's gonna happen next year. Because if next year you have to tax us 3%, guess what? We're gonna pay. It's what happens. So I'm sorry. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
I think the 0 is the bottom number, and I really think Schooner Tuna, the tuna with a heart,
All right.
0.5 will make everybody happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go.
Marion Shaluzan. I just want to thank all the board members here who really, really know what the taxpayers are going through. I mean, we have certain people here on the board that get it. Yes, you know, we all have our own finances, and to say, you know, it's only $7 or, you know, divide how much it's going to be a year, we could do that ourselves. Stop with how much it's only going to be. Like I said last week, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors, okay? And like Sonia said, it's our money. If you guys you know, you needed $300,000 for the bathroom. Well, that's on your watch. You know, you should have did a little bit at a time. So now it's pushing down our throats. We got to do this. It's every single year. I'm up here 37 years and it's disgusting. I mean, you know, the faces, the things that we have to go through. We're not here because we want to be here. Why are we here? We have a board that's supposed to help us. Nothing's going to happen to the children. The children are going to be fine. Do you think anybody here is saying, don't give this to the children? Seriously? They're all mothers or grandmothers. Nothing's going to happen. So listen to your hearts and, you know, you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Do the right thing for us for a change. Okay? Because like I said, nothing's going to happen to the children. And for the board members who hear us, because they're out there, you guys hear a different story. I happened to go door knocking for a petition. I heard the worst. People invite me in, people crying, telling Mary, this is my last year here. Is that what you want to hear? Come on, guys. Do better than this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Nicole Iacono. I just want to say I heard that not one financial advisor would approve of going to a zero-based budget. And I'm sorry?
That's just.
Is that a debate?
No, let's say that wasn't.
Our old board president stood up in front of the public and stated his thoughts on going down to a 0.5 budget, if I'm correct. So he's a financial advisor, so I just want to correct you on that. There is one financial advisor that did say that. And if this budget does fail for not listening and going off of looks like a power fight here, you'll be the ones that are taking sports and extracurricular activities from the students, not the community, because we spoke, you're not listening, and you're doing what you want. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a long time since I've been to a meeting and I apologize.
Right, next, so your name, please.
Jack Morton.
Thank you.
Right, sorry. I haven't been in for a while. Very busy at home. So I just have a few points I want to make. Listening on YouTube on the way over, I heard a statement made about using the reserves is like using Peter to pay Paul. You know what? Based on the meetings I've been listening to lately, okay? You should have even had Peter to have to pay Paul because it was set for a certain thing, which leads me to my next point. Okay, I want to echo, and I apologize, I don't know who made the statement that if we use the reserves for other projects, we're lying, Mike, it may have been you, right? You're using the reserves that you had set for this pending lawsuit, right? For other projects, okay? I work for a union. We raise our dues to buy a building, okay? And when we had put into our bylaws, we will not use those funds for anything else. Do you know why? Because those funds were meant for this. Not this. You had the reserves for a lawsuit, a pending lawsuit. There's no lawsuit. Lawsuit's gone, correct? Use that money, which is our money, for the budget now, okay? I'm gonna skip over my other point because we're gonna skip over that, but I do want to make one more point. The last time the budget got voted down, one of the first people to come to speak to the microphone, because Mike made a statement as the president at the time, about why did it get voted down? I came to the microphone and I told you, right? I was very honest and I gave very vivid opinions on why the budget was voted down. I'm happy that all these people picked up where I left off, where a bunch of us left off. There's more people here now that I have been able to be here and they fought, and I thank you for pick up in my absence. I really do. I appreciate all of you. All right? Use that money and give it back to us. All right, you know what? I'm gonna say it. You know what? Yeah, power trip, yes. So you know what? Next year, if we're a little low on money, okay, there's contracts for raises. You know what? You know I don't know if you have contracts for superintendents and assistant superintendents. Maybe you take less of a raise because that was the point I made to you when the budget got voted down. Look at that. Because if you get a raise, why should our taxes go up? Thank you. And I hope you guys really, no disrespect, use your brain and think about us and not you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I've been really listening to,
We know what your name is.
so sorry, I'm sorry.
I said, we know what your name is, but you have to state it anyways.
So I've been listening to your conversations tonight, and as a prior board member, it is a difficult decision to make. And part of a job being a board member is the balance of the community's needs and the students' needs. And some of the things I heard here tonight is that the taxes, we have to pay them every year, and I understand that. But taxes are compounded. So this year's $70 gets added with next year's $70, and we go on and on and on. And that's what this community is dealing with, is the pain of the continuous need every year and the percent that's going up. Now, some of the other things that we talked about tonight is that there's going to be a cliff. So I'm going to go back in history a little bit. I'm going to go back to 2014-15. We went up 0.49. 15-16 was 0.99. 16-17 was minus 0.12. 17-18 was 0%. 18-19 was 0.89. We started litigation. The attorneys told this board, I was a sitting member, we needed to increase the levy because we had pending litigation. This community, we then came out and came up with 2.10 in 1920. 2021 was 1.66. 21-22 was 2.03, and 22-23 was 2.75, and 23-24 was 2.81. So the community did come forward because there was a need, and we explained we have litigation with the city of New York. That was resolved this past July. The other thing that happened, I'm sorry. The other thing that happened this year, you did sell property of $1.2 million. That is money that was not there before. When I look at your difference between 1.95 and 0.5, if you go to 0.5, it's $1,375,000. Take the $1.2 million from the district office, take 175 from the tax cert, and you don't have to cut one thing. Nothing changes anything for the students, and you give the community a relief. You did ask the community for that money, and they gave it to you. The bigger issue is if this budget fails in May, you're being irresponsible. That's when things would get cut to the students per state regs. Why would you do that? Why would you put the best budget forward? You're not asking to cut anything. That's money you did not have the $1.2 million. And to take 175 from the tax cert that has $10 million in there is not irresponsible. And this whole cliff thing, it didn't happen. We did it years ago. No cliff happened. And the problem is we're not doing a zero-based budget. We're doing a rollover budget, okay? You need to go back to doing a zero-based budget on true need, not rolling over numbers. So I hope that you reconsider and go with at least 0.5 and give this community the relief they need. Thank you.
Okay, I'm literally doing this on a whim. Danielle Wiljack, live here in Mayapack, grew up in Carmel. I've been here a long time. First time I started coming to these meetings was during COVID. My kids suffered. And I get emotional because it brings back, I had PTSD from it. I spoke up every month, every week. I emailed. Most of you guys heard me. Many of you didn't. I made a lot of friends. Our taxes at my personal level have gone up 75% in the last 6 years. It's a lot. And that is just school tax, not including my property. If I'm watching these numbers, which I may not understand everything because everything's in a big bucket. Nothing is itemized. I work on budgets for my job. Everything has to be accounted for. If we have money sitting here, because I forgot, I'm also Peter. I'm not just Paul, I'm Peter. You guys borrowed from me to put this money aside. I'm asking you to come down a little bit because I was also here when the budget was voted down and everybody threatens it's going to happen and that our children are going to suffer. Why will our children suffer when I'm not seeing everything laid out? Why would we cut sports? Why would we cut music? Why would we cut art? It's all in there. So instead of, like Lucy said, having a rolling budget, you start at zero and you go by need. If these bathrooms need to be done, we do a little at a time. Why do they all have to be done at once? Realistically, I don't think it can happen. But I'm out here just asking you also to look at the numbers again.
Because what I saw was decreased from the last meeting was barely penny. Nothing happened. So I'm just on a whim, just coming up here as a mom and as a community member, and I have family here that can almost not afford it anymore. So do I want my mom to move? No, because then she'll come and live with me. You know, I don't mind. But again, I appreciate everybody that's been listening. And I am gonna say it also, the coffee comment last week bothered me. I don't go out and I don't buy coffee.
Right.
I make my own coffee at home. I work for a company that creates coffee makers. So during COVID, people were making everything at home. So to make comments that $12, $7, it just, that bothered me. Because if I'm spending $5 on a coffee once every 6 months, that's my $5. It's not $12 and it's not once a week. And it's not your money to tell me how to spend mine. But I know when the budget gets voted no, because it's a possibility. If you guys do not hear us, it may happen. So there better be a contingency plan that does not affect my child.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate all. Thank you. I appreciate everybody showing up and obviously all the time and effort for everybody came to show up to the meetings. With that, can we get a motion to close the meeting
Go to executive.
and go to executive meeting?
You just cause.
I can get a second?
What did you say?
Oh, I don't even know.
Student, student.
What are we discussing in executive session?
Oh.
You guys just repeat the number that you agreed on?
One.
It was 1% is what we agreed on.
All right, so can we get a motion to close session, go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations? I'll move. We get a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Slide everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Let's charge for next
Yeah, I think, right, we were at 1.8.
I never done.
No one read it.
And I just started the day.
I know we closed the meeting. We're gonna reduce the budget to 1.89. Right, we will see.
Yeah.
So this is not.
I think it was unfair of us to like. Find it great. And up until 2 weeks ago.